Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. It's brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Duroplus, where Duroplus goes, water flows. Having mosquito spray and coil. Pleasant on humans, tough nightmare on insects. And Napa Foods, it is tasty. DBS Industries and Roberts and Sons, seeing is believing. My guest this morning, Abdul Malik Kukubako, is editor-in-chief, New Crusading Guide newspaper. Dr. Randy Abe is host, Good Evening, Good Morning, Ghana, Metropolitan Television. Thank you very much for making the time to join us, sir.
Thanks.
Right. Also, joining us via Zoom virtually are Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, convener, Media Coalition Against Galamsey, and Jifa Bampo, senior editor, 3FM host, 3FM First Take, and Evans Mensah, who is head of the political desk here at Joy News. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, joining us virtually. Good morning.
Good morning, Samson.
Great to have you. Jifa, let's hear your voice. Yeah, Jifa, unmute. All right.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone.
Great. Good morning. We can hear you now. So, ladies and gentlemen, the topics that we are canvassing for our audience, we'd like to start first by getting your very brief comments by way of newspaper review of the very disturbing matter of Akufo-Addo allegedly spending 15,000 per hour on a 10-day foreign travel. And the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa has filed, is it an urgent question on it, seeking to haul the Defense Minister before Parliament to explain why Ghana has an aircraft that is functioning for the use of the president, and yet our president decides to spend a colossal 345,000 US dollars on a trip. So let me start with you, Evans. What do you make of this?
I mean, when I first saw the story, as I saw Okudzeto Ablakwa's writing on it, I thought, okay, this is interesting, but is it, at what level is this? Is he attacking this at? Then I realized that he's actually filed an urgent question. And I said, okay, that's the appropriate thing to do, because often the challenge I've had is when allegations are made by politicians, they simply throw the allegations out there. You ask them, so what are you doing about it? Especially when you are a ranking member of a very significant, influential, powerful committee in Parliament like the Foreign Affairs Committee. You don't just leave it at that. You need to use official, lay down structures at your disposal as a ranking member to get some clarity on the matter. And I think he rightly did that. And so it gave his approach a bit more legitimacy, a bit more weight, because he's filed an urgent question asking for clarity on the matter, which I think is appropriate. And this is directed at the defense minister, who must come to Parliament, and that is if the speaker admits this urgent question and schedules it for hearing, must come to Parliament and provide some answers. And he puts it in the context of everything that is happening in the last few weeks with the Fix the Country protests. Definitely, if you put in that context, it sort of gives it a bit more fuel. The allegation is that £15,000 an hour was spent in hiring this particular fleet. And I've been just a bit more digging. I get the impression that this is possibly the first time this aircraft may have been used by the president. And let's put also in the border
may have been used by a president.
Well, I mean, again, that is something I cannot vouch for because I don't have the evidence to suggest that, and so I wouldn't make that categorical statement. But for this particular precedent, it appears that it's possible that they have used the services of the company before that has this fleet, and may have used other lesser options in terms of the luxury, but maybe chose this option this time. We need clarity on that. But there is a bigger contest I recall in 2018, and I was in the US when I heard the news of this. And this relates to the existing presidential jet. The president, and this must be the UN General Assembly, the president had just finished, had taken off with the current presidential jet. Within a few minutes, we got word that the jet had developed a fault and had to make an emergency landing. It turns out one of the engines was faulty. And so it made an emergency landing. They have to find another means for the president to travel. And the question we need to ask is, since then, has the president used the jet again? It's on record that other officials of government have flown the presidential jet, which suggests that they had fixed the problem. And Okudzeto asked a legitimate question. Why did the president choose this option, which is the very expensive, as he alleges, the most expensive option, when there were cheaper options? That, I think, is a legitimate question that needs to be addressed.
All right. So you expect that the defense minister will supply us the answers when he appears before Parliament.
Absolutely.
Now, Kenneth Shigbe joins us via phone. Okudzeto's arguments, among others, is that, the president is failing to lead by example, and that this is profligacy at its, height. And in a period of austerity, the government is appealing to the struggling public and public sector workers that, there will not be increases in wages, or even if there will, it should be very marginal, among other things. And we are going around the world borrowing. So this is so wrong. What do you say?
And then I would side with Evans and say that, at least for once, you have a situation in which there is the possibility that this question will be answered, that the representatives of the people would be able, with the structure of the parliament we have now, be able to get a defense minister to come and answer to us. Because, and you put it very rightly, with all COVID and with the challenges that we find ourselves in as a country, you want leadership to be leading by showing the way and ensuring that we're using very prudently the resources that we have. And if you have other options that are safer, that are cheaper, that will be able to do the work, we would expect that that is what should be done. So it is going to be very important that we all are told why is it that we should be spending this. And I would expect that the Speaker of Parliament would admit this, because definitely this is in the public interest. And knowing the way our politics is run, in the past, you would have thought, this could just have been left in the open and no answers would have been given. But with this, we would get an opportunity to understand why this is happening. And then the people in whom the sovereignty resides then should be able to know what exactly has happened.
You are one of those people that the Constitution says ultimate power of this country resides in you, and that government must exercise those powers for and on your behalf and for your welfare and interest. Will there be any justification that will be sufficient for you to take and accept that it's okay for your president in this period where is appealing to everybody else and tightening our belts and increasing taxes to take on such, a venture, traveling to borrow?
Thank you very much, Samson. The thing I need to state for a fact is that all the information I have is exactly what it is, what I have seen. Assuming that is true, and the fact that there are cheaper options, I would be expecting my president to use the most prudent means and safe means to travel. And in an environment where we are all asked to burden share, I would be expecting that we'll be using our resources more judiciously than this. But that would also be based on what the facts are. And that's why, for me, I'm happy that the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa has filed this in Parliament. And I will be hoping that this question will be allowed and will be asked, and we should get answers.
All right.
Fortunately for us, we are in a period where the right information has been passed. So, and if this presidency that has passed that. So, in that same light, we'll be expecting that they will be forthcoming with the information.
Okay.
But definitely, if what has been said is true, that is not how I would want my resources to be used.
Okay. And it's good that we are happy about the right to information so that we can seek information. But guess what? The Media Foundation for West Africa sought information from the NCA about something that is of public interest, about the closure of radio stations, among the rest. And guess what? They were asked to pay 2,000 cedis for the information. Because of that, they are in court. And the court will tell us what should happen. Now, Jifa, how do you read this story as a journalist, as an editor, and ultimately as a citizen?
I think one of the things we've never had is full disclosure and transparency on expenses when it relates to travel. You remember at the beginning of President Akufo-Addo's presidency, he did indicate that they were going to minimize non-essential travel, and that also related to not buying new cars and the like. The reality is that I don't think we've really been apprised of what goes into these international trips. Sometimes there's criticism about using commercial flights and the number of trips that needs to be done. So I think this is a classic example of how maybe you're trying to avoid COVID infection and you're trying to travel without the risk of infection. And then you procure this opportunity to travel, but you're paying a steep price for it. So I guess we need more information about it. I'm not going to kind of pronounce on whether this was right or wrong. I would like to know what went into this decision. I've seen some criticism that some 24 hours this has been made public. There's been no response from the presidency. I think we need to note that once an urgent question has been filed and the defense minister is going to answer that, then it will not exactly be appropriate to hear from the presidency at this point because someone has to answer. If the defense minister answers and we are not satisfied, then I think we can up the ante and ask the presidency to explain further. But I think in a time of COVID, in a time where there are many people who have lost their jobs, we don't have the full figure. The last time TUC said some 42,000 people had lost their jobs. I dare say the numbers are higher. And we don't see a drive to actually get more people into work in spite of 1D, 1F and all that. The reality is times are hard for everyone. And the recent tax increases have demonstrated that, which led to the Fix the Country protests and agitations. And so certainly this is not good for the president's image. In the 2019 Afrobarometer survey, there's a section of it which talks about who do you trust? Which institutions do you trust? And the president is number 2 on that list. Number 1 is the Ghana Armed Forces. And so by these actions or inactions, the president will be losing trust. And I hope that they do take steps to be transparent and open about why they took this very expensive and luxurious option instead of using the presidential jet. That said, before I wrap up, I just want to say that the issues relating to the presidential jet have been controversial for the last 20 years, and we need to find a way to bring it to an end.
All right.
We need to accept that if our leaders must travel, we must provide them the appropriate facility for travel so that they don't go and expend on luxurious travel such as this.
Right. Now, Randy, Okudzeto says that, quote, the irony is that President Akufo-Addo engaged in this fantastic extravagance on his way to France to go beg President Emmanuel Macron for debt cancellation. Needless to add that President Macron does not travel in such splendor. He noted that such lavish spending in such a period of austerity sends the wrong message not only to the foreign powers whom the president was beseeching for debt cancellation, but to the Ghanaian citizens who in recent times have been agitating for hashtag fix the country.
Well, Samsi, thanks for the opportunity. And I'd first of all like to congratulate the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. He's the ranking member on Foreign Affairs. And so this clearly is within his domain. And you know that in these times, things, especially in the aviation industry, are quite transparent. And so you can track any aircraft, activity of any aircraft, where it was, where it went to, how long it was there. So these things are there for people to see. You know, presidents have to travel. There's no doubt about that. The state must facilitate their travel. Now, we're told that somewhere in 2018, after that incident in the US, there were two recommendations, that we either buy a new jet or we hire for the president's use, especially for long haul. So I'm told that the president has been using the presidential jet for travels within the sub-region and the continent. And that any time he's going beyond the continent, jets are hired. And it appears that for this particular company, this will not be the first time that the government will be hiring a jet from them.
That's the Acropolis.
Yes, you know. But when you see the visuals of the aircraft and the description of that aircraft, and the fact that this is the top of the range in the fleet of aircrafts that this company has. So here you talk about the optics, you know, and I keep stressing that these things are not things that are hidden. And so even in opting for this particular one, you should know that these are things that will come to light. People will get to know. And you need to ask yourself, will this be a defensible position? And this has nothing to do with the principle of hiring a jet, but it's what you hire. If you decide to go and hire a car, you have the option of hiring a Mercedes E300, and you have the option of hiring a Maybach. Which one you hire has consequences, and you should be able to deal with that. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that the issue of hiring a jet for presidential travel is not so much the issue, but it's about what you hired. Now, this particular aircraft is described as a penthouse suite, a flying penthouse suite, and you've seen the visuals. You understand? You've seen the visuals. So why did you take this option? And it definitely will be a legitimate question. Why did you choose this with what we are all seeing instead of many other options? And this will not be the first time that the president has traveled on a private jet, a hired jet. It will not be. So why this particular one? It could well be that the indicative price of 15,000 per hour is not what we paid for, because we obviously would have rented this jet for 10 days or maybe 11 days. And so they would have negotiated a particular price. Whatever the negotiated price is, even for the optics, you know, for example, this issue that the Honorable Okudzeto raises as to you going to ask for debt forgiveness on, you know, it's the irony of it. You understand me? That if you can be able to travel in such luxury, why would you want us to forgive your debt? You're not portraying yourself as somebody who is even prudent.
That's a question he raised that
Yes.
suggested that every country where you land, of course, they will check which flight you may have come with, and will ask themselves the question: are you really poor? Because if you're coming and you're spending 2.8 million Ghana cedis of the money you say you don't have, and you could have done a travel which will cost you less than 15% of that amount, then you don't deserve. You are not being sincere with us.
So it's a legitimate issue, and it's also about the optics. Look, sometimes governments and presidents take decisions that perhaps are token, but they symbolize something. I'll give you an example. This year, May Day, in the president's address, I think it was virtual, he announced that there will be no salary increment for himself and all members of the executive, vice president, ministers, deputy ministers, all other appointees for 1 year. I disagreed with that, but that's a different matter. And he says it was to assist the country to recuperate from the adverse effect the COVID pandemic has had on the economy. And I like to quote him here. He says, "It's our modest contribution to reduce the damage to our public revenue and to help hasten our nation's recovery from the ravages of the pandemic." I mean, how much of an increment will the president or any minister have in a year in terms of quantum? But this is something you might call a token, just to demonstrate something. You see, so when you set such examples, it must fly, it must flow through. You get what I'm saying? So you don't do this if what you want to symbolize is a government that appreciates where we are and will try to be as modest as it can, as it asks everybody to tighten their belts and to endure something and to deny ourselves some luxury. When you see images like this, the optics obviously do not portray a government that wants to engage in modesty, and it's asking everybody.
On your show, Nana Kumia tried to give you an explanation. Did you find that, okay, something that you could manage with?
Which one?
I thought he suggested that this had broken down and you needed to ensure the safety of the president.
That's why from the beginning I said that the issue of renting or hiring a jet, for me, that is not what is an issue.
Okay.
If what we have is not fit for this purpose and we have to hire, by all means, let's hire. There's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think what's an issue is what we hired.
Okay.
And what the optics of what we hired present. That for me is the issue.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, Koku. Obviously, there is a groundswell of people in the country who are not excited about what they are seeing. And like Randy speaks about, the optics alone.
My brother, a member of parliament has raised issues. He was entitled to raise them wherever he did it, whether on Facebook or other social media platforms, press conference, anywhere. He was entitled, not just because he's a member of parliament, but he's also a citizen of the land. And fortunately for us, and I realize that there's a certain consensus, that he's done a right thing by proceeding to get parliament to interrogate the issue, by filing an urgent question. Why this plane? What went into it? I would rather wait for how parliament deals with the matter. I would rather wait for the defense minister to appear and give us reasons. Unfortunately, of course, the member of parliament himself has made some comments, some prejudicial, in my candid opinion, because he stated his case, he's defending his case, he's giving some reasons. Some of us, whilst discussing it, have also raised issues. Even questions you ask itself, there's an inbuilt line of inquiry. So, fine. And you see, that's democracy, to be honest with you. It is difficult to ask people, shut up, don't talk. about the issues because Parliament is going to deal with it. You can't do it. But I prefer the option of the defense minister appearing before Parliament to answer questions. And then we interrogate the
but
issues.
it is not wrong for anybody to try to pass judgment.
I've considered.
It's a question, really. Yeah. It's not wrong for anyone to try to pass judgment like Okudzeto is doing, because he says he has done his assessment. And from what he has done, and compared to what presidents have done over the years, there were several other options that you can come and justify this. But irrespective of the justification, that's not good enough, because you could have had, other options which could give you less.
So why
like Randy says,
so why file an urgent question? You've concluded. If your conclusions are substitute for the final thing, why file it? Why tell anybody?
You go to court because you have a case and you may lose. No. So what's wrong with it?
Yeah, so that's the point. So if you listen to me carefully, I said there was absolutely nothing wrong with him filing the issue in Parliament or even raising it outside. But he's not the final authority on the issue. He cannot be. Otherwise, we should all just take hook, line, and sinker what he said. And it's based on experience. Look, the question about the economic situation is always been the argument we've made. Building the Jubilee House, we made that argument. Buying, Achampon buying his, I've forgotten the...
Building the motorway, we made that
exactly,
argument.
And indeed, unfortunately, in Achampon's case, it was one of the reasons why he was seen as corrupt. Okay? You can read Professor Michael Kwei's book and see the facts there. Because the people went into the plane and saw kente had been used to decorate the plane as, this is too luxurious. The same with the Jubilee House. The same with the Gulfstream of Rolex. Go check the Hansard. Same with Kufuor's Falcon. That's okay. People can express those things because indeed, we always have a certain economic reality of hardships, of inadequacy. There's no doubt about that. If Ablakwa had not taken this matter to Parliament, I would interrogate it comprehensively and express my opinion.
Okay.
But he's taking the thing to Parliament, and we are all here saying that, look, the defense minister is scheduled to appear before Parliament. So why don't we wait for what the defense minister says and interrogate the answers the defense minister gives within the context of the claims Ablakwa has made? I'm ready for that.
You're saying, however, that does not preclude someone from, on the basis of the facts they have, to make their comments and be judgmental.
The nature of democracy is such that you can't close that door.
All right.
You cannot close that window.
Okay.
Anybody who attempts to shut that window will fail.
All right.
And that may even create the impression as if you want to shut people down because you don't want them to seek the truth. So I'm not bothered about that.
All right.
All I'm saying is that they are not mutually exclusive, but I will highlight what happens in the House of Parliament because that is subject to serious, strict proof.
That's right. Okay. So
auditing,
better to have both
even
sides.
auditing, let me finish. Even the processes of auditing would be triggered in the expenditure. Yes, so that is serious practice, a good practice in a democracy.
Okay.
Yes,
hopefully we
have patience.
Hopefully, since he's the defense minister, hopefully we are not told that this is about defense, and you know how we shroud defense issues in some mystery, and insist that the constitution and the laws say these aspects must not be made open to the public.
You've raised an interesting point. It just struck me. Defense minister, you see, is the presidential jet that is within the custody of the Air Force. That is the communication squadron. If we were discussing the presidential jet, the state of it and things, then I would see why a defense minister would be required. He would come supported by the communication squadron and army staff. But this one, I believe, it's even more the foreign ministry.
So he may have directed his petition wrongly.
The point you made is what has made me thinking. You see, because the foreign trips of the president, I think, comes within the context. Of course, there's a national security aspect, but I think it's more of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Whatever it is, it goes to Parliament. Urgent question is filed. I pray the Speaker admits it. Right. And whoever has the information on behalf of the executive appears to give answers.
Well, you never know. It just may be rejected on the basis of procedure, because, like we say, sometimes procedure is as important as substantive law.
I hear you, but it will be unfortunate. It will be unfortunate.
I don't see how Parliament can do that. You see, if it's in the name of a defense minister, and the defense minister writes to Parliament that I had nothing to do with it, it's not within my jurisdiction.
Then send it where it should be.
You send it to where the appropriate places, because Parliament ought to be sensitive to the public sentiment.
That's right.
This is a public interest issue. We need answers to it. An issue of misdirection to a ministry must not curtail the process.
Okay, thank you.
I agree.
This is Newsfile, brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Duroplast, where Duroplast goes, water flows. Having mosquito spray and coil, pleasant on humans, tough nightmare on insects. And Napa Foods, it is tasty. DBS Industries, anything roofing, the best. That's where you get it. Robert and Sons, seeing is believing. My guest, Abdul Malik Kwekubako, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, our regular panelist. Jifa Behobampo, a senior editor, 3FM, and host, 3FM First Take. Evans Mensah, news editor here, and head political desk right here at Joy News. Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe is convener, Media Coalition Against Galamsey, and Dr. Randy Abe, host, Good Evening, Good Morning, Ghana on Metro TV. Yes, Good Morning, Ghana on Metro TV. When we return, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll hear from the president agreeing with his ministers, in my interpretation, that they rather prefer to look for galamsey machines, chamfans and excavators, and set them on fire, rather than what the law says ought to be done, including that the foreigners who are involved should be arrested, and when they are arrested, they are looking to pay as much as 3.6 million Ghana cedis and may go to jail for 25 years. And Ghanaians who are fronting some of these things, when arrested, would also be looking to pay about 240,000 Ghana cedis, or in addition to that, may be looking to jail for up to about 10 years. And the state, Ghana, has all the information about these people whose machines they are arresting. Why are they so interested in the machines rather than the individuals involved? In fact, the Minister of Information has issued a statement and has told the people around the Ankobra that they should know that the 401 soldiers are coming there shortly. Is that to say, run away, we don't want you, we want the machines? We'll be right back.